There are many aspects of how Nigeria should be changed. There are legal aspects, there are constitutional aspects, there are areas about security, economics, and all have to move together. When I was invited by Dr. Amadi, I decided I will focus on the religious. And interestingly, that has been coming up also in the previous discussions. So Amadi reminded us that already in the Wilkins report, they had raised the issue of religion in the Nigerian state. And other people have also done so. I just want to, in summary form, make my own observations. It is not a paper. It's a piece of paper, but not a paper in the academic sense of the word, even though I could try and do something about that. More or less, I'm trying to raise the issue. Now that we are talking about change, whether you call it the structure of Nigeria, but definitely change in the way Nigeria is organized and run, I believe we must also talk about where does religion come into all this discussion. I want to start with a statement of fact that has become very well known, that Nigeria is a very religious nation. Is this an asset or a liability? My own opinion, it is an asset. Despite the exploits of manipulators, namely those referred to by my brother, Father Usani, who manipulate religion for their own personal and selfish reasons. Despite the exploits of fanatics who have very queer concept of what their religion demands of them, up to the extent of believing that if you do not believe like me, you don't even deserve to live. That, in my opinion, is the logic behind the blasphemy laws and the Deborah tragedy. You might even say this kind of fanatics misuse and abuse of religion is behind the Boko Haram. I don't know how to pronounce their official title in Arabic, but it does include two major elements. Sunni, which is Sunni Muslims, to which my brother Mojid belongs. And it includes the concept of dawah, meaning to express, to expand the faith of Islam. And it's on the basis of that, according to them, that they can hold a human being down and slit his throat like a cow shouting Allah Akbar. That is abuse of religion by fanatics. It's nothing new. It's not new. It has been in human history for a long time. The tragedy is that it is still going on in this year, in these times. Also, despite the exploits of charlatans. Charlatans means people who find in religion a way of pleasing themselves, not serving God, and deceiving people. And sometimes speak very nicely. They are the best preachers, and they can mislead people in the name of religion. Unfortunately, religion makes itself amenable to all this misuse. So I'm saying, despite such exploits that then end up giving religion a very bad name, I still say that religion is a force for good in the society, which is why I go back to say that Nigeria is a very religious nation, should be a point for us to be proud of. We don't have to apologize for that to anybody. Religion is still a force for good, and It's not a question of a priori academic. But if we look back at the history, religion was a force for good in pre-colonial times. Most of our nation states, we call them tribes, were ruled with in a situation whereby religion and politics were mixed. In the ancient Yoruba kingdoms, even the ancient Ibera kingdoms, and so on, with the both ATR. And in pre-colonial Nigeria, Islam already was an essential element of government in the Sokoto Caliphate, and even before the Sokoto Caliphate, in all the other Nigerian kingdoms were somehow strongly Islamic there. Now, pre-colonial days, there was not much of Christianity, but even then, we should not forget that Christianity came to Nigeria before colonialism. The first Christian missionaries in Abeokuta came when Abeokuta was independent, a back kingdom. The first missionaries got permission to enter Abeokuta from the Alaki of Abeokuta. Father Cockard, who started the first hospital in the whole of Nigeria, and the hospital is still there in Abeokuta, was welcomed by the Alaki of Abeokuta. So religion has been there, playing its own positive roles. Interestingly, during the colonial era, the British colonial regime adopted what I consider quite a careful and careful handling of religion. Whether it is in relationship with Islam, because of its entrenched position, or even in their relations to our African traditional religions, which they respected as much as possible. They made they had some limits to how far the demands of the African traditional religion can go. They have such expression as, provided it does not go against, what word were they using? Something like human, what they consider inhuman practices. That's why, for example, they forbade capital punishment by traditional institutions. That doesn't mean the colonial government did not practice capital punishment, but they had to bring it to the adjudication of the colonial leaders, which means they can approve capital punishment for murder, but they will not approve capital punishment for somebody accused of having said something that should not have been said. And of course, it is well known the very close relationship and partnership between the colonial era and the Christian missionaries. I am a product of that collaboration. And we are proud of that partnership, which in our opinion did well for the good of our people. In the colonial era, respected also Islam. In fact, some of us believe they bent over backward to respect the Islamic institutions. But all for them, it was all because they were looking for the best way to be able to rule this huge country successfully, making use of the existing structures of governance in their place under the whole title of indirect rule. Then came Nigerian independence, and we had to fashion for ourselves what would be the relationship between religion and the state. And the reference to the Wilkins Commission is interesting, because the Wilkins Commission was supposed to prepare for an independent Nigeria. It would be good to go back to the 1963 Constitution, with which we started independence, and to see what kind of relationship between state and religion we had in that Constitution. One thing is definitely sure. Since independence until now, it has been a very turbulent journey in the sense of what is the role of religion in the Nigerian state. We who are following the journey very carefully, we have seen so much somersault, so much changes in the different constitutional reforms, different constitutions that came, and so many amendments that were made to the constitution, merely changing one word created a major difference in the balance that already existed between religions in Nigeria. If we take the present constitution, whether mind as amended or not amended, it is riddled with inconsistencies, contradictions, problems when it comes to seriously talking about how religion relates to the nation. Which is why it is obvious we must look at it again. It is obvious we must look at it again. So, like I agree with Father George that maybe it is good that we give a look at changing to parliamentary system. Perhaps we need to find out too and ask those soldiers who threw away the parliamentary system and introduced the presidential system. What reasons did they have? And do they think those reasons are still valid? I'm afraid I'm not a scholar in that direction, but I'm just saying it will be interesting. And it is this, the changes of the military rule that has given us what we have now in the Constitution, which I say is quite problematic. And I believe now that we are talking of reviewing everything, it is a good time that we also bring on board discussions about religion and state in Nigeria. The National Assembly may think it is not an important matter, but I dare to say it is very important, whether you mention it or you don't mention it, precisely because Nigeria is a very religious nation. You can't wish that away. I will suggest, therefore, in the process of reconsideration of what is happening, we should think of certain guiding principles. Number one, that religion is a positive force for good. And the issue is, how do we make sure that it works for good for us? Noting the issues I raised earlier. And especially today, when we are living in a global environment where there is a consistent denial of God and religion in the Western nations, and when we are seeing rampant increase in the abuse of religion, in violent conflicts, in the, like for example, all the exploits of ISIS and those who are in that line, including our own Boko Haram, ISWAP, we are seeing it. So we cannot close our eyes to the problem. How do we make sure that religion, which by itself should be a good thing, how do we make sure it is indeed a good thing for our nation and not be a source of conflict, division, hatred, violence, outright killing? Secondly, to help us to do that, I strongly submit we must distinguish between religion and God. There's one God, and many religions. One God is the element around which we have a unity of purpose. And we must insist on that. I say it glibly, for most of us too, it is taken for granted that there is one God. But I'm afraid that my experience, especially in more recent times, is that there are many Nigerians who don't believe that we have one God, who keep insisting that the God of the Christians is not the same as the God of the Muslims. Now, That is serious. Because if we cannot sincerely agree that we have one God, how are we going to work together in a nation united under God? That's what the Constitution says. United under what God? Therefore, we must admit that there's a distinction, that there's God and there is religion. And religion comes in its diversities. This is not a purely academic discussion. It is real. Linked to that is the whole question of freedom of religion, which is actually enshrined in the modern fundamental declarations of human rights. They keep speaking about freedom of belief, freedom of conscience, freedom of religious expression. And you talk of freedom of religion because you believe that there is pluralism of religion, not only de facto, not only that the fact is there are many religions, that one is obvious enough. What is not so obvious is that whether this pluralism of religion is there de jure, namely that it is part and parcel of God's plan that there will be many religions. And that I can be a very convinced Catholic and still be able to accept, respect that some other people may have their own road to heaven different from my own. And the fact that they are different does not mean that they are wrong. If we don't make this clear, we cannot move far. Again, I would like to say with deep regret that there are many in Nigeria who pursue religion vigorously without respecting the whole idea that the differences are also part of God's plan. They might politely acknowledge that you are there. That's where they like the word tolerance. They say, we should have a country where there's religious tolerance. Whenever I hear that, I say, wait a minute, what do you mean by that? Because in my own concept of tolerance, you tolerate something you really don't want. And which you just have to put up with. Which means whenever you have the opportunity, you simply remove it. Is that the kind of relationship we want between Christians and Muslims? That I tolerate my Muslim friends and they maybe close their nose with their hands and tolerate me? No, we should go beyond that. We should go beyond that. We accept that the other has a right to be what he claims to be under the same God that talks to all of us. Because we are getting here now into the whole area of the theology of religions. Therefore, it comes to respect for religious structures. And religious structures, by the nature of things, have their diversities. But once you come down to the level of religious structures, we must also admit their limitations. Religions and structures are not absolute. Only God is absolute. We have religious structures in worship structures, religious practices, religious regulations, which sometimes appear as laws. For a harmonious national policy, these religious structures must have equality before the law, and they must somehow respect the public order. And here I conclude with special reference to law, religious law. That has become a crucial problem in Nigeria. And in every constitutional discussion and debates, we have always raised the issue of the position of Islamic law within the Nigerian constitution, because there's no Christian law in the Nigerian constitution. I'm aware that there are some Christians who have burnt midnight oil preparing a new constitution in which they ingeniously inserted into the Nigerian constitution Christian law wherever they see Sharia. Unfortunately, by the time you carry that kind of a document, it is quite funny. It doesn't make sense. We must find a solution at a different level and in a different direction. We need, therefore, the kind of radical change they are talking about in such a way that in Nigeria we have one nation, one law. One nation, one law, based on the principle of religious equity. Each religious community is free to organize its laws according to its own way. Then the national law takes care of all of us. And there is a principle of equity in this regard which other nations have followed. Namely, the national law does not command what religious laws forbid, and it does not forbid what the religious laws command. If this is maintained, there will be room to live in peace, because this will still preserve the freedom of religion for all consent. I think I have finished. No. Now, what the principle I just mentioned now, the religious law of the nation must not command. Religious laws forbid, and must not forbid what the religious laws command, means that the national law does not have to command what the religious laws command. No, it doesn't even have to forbid what the religious laws forbid. I'll give you an example. We Catholics believe that polygamy is wrong. But the law of my nation permits it. Provided the law of my land does not command me to go and take a second wife, I'm satisfied with the situation of a nation which allows polygamy. The same thing if you take Islam. Islam says no alcohol. Fine. But the law of the land does not have to forbid alcohol, provided it does not enforce the drinking of alcohol. So for as long as you live in a nation where you are free not to drink alcohol, let there be peace. Don't make too much wahala. There are cases of genuine clash, perhaps, between the civil law and religious injunctions. But all this will be subject to dialogue and reconciliation. And I take example. Take uniforms. You'll be having problem once in a while. The policemen and soldiers are supposed to dress. In Nigerian police, Nigerian military, they dress the same way. Some people come out and say it's against Islamic law. They must dress differently, especially the ladies. Or like we see in NYSC. And we create a lot of problem. The question is this a religious injunction? Can we compromise on this for the sake of unity? There are parts of this country where people believe that the churches are bad influence in their community. We know that, and I have concrete evidence, which I once showed to my friend, the Sultan of Sokoto, where land was given to people with proviso. We give you this land, provided. Yes. provided you don't use it for drinking house, provided you don't use it for brothel, and provided you don't use it for church. They say, ba gidangia, ba loji, ba shoshi. Unofficial document of Nigeria. And it was used. It was not much noise was made, but the people who implemented it, and on the basis of that, they will not give you land for church. If you're a Catholic and you apply for land, you want to build a hotel, you want to build anything you build, but they are told you cannot use it for these things. I took it to Sultan. Please remove this shoshi from this paper. But because to put church in the same line with brothels and drinking houses is not a respect to the religion. You know, we are here and we hear that whole trailers of beer were arrested, totally destroyed on the basis of the Sharia law. Somebody writes to me, Cardinal, what are we doing about it? My answer, I said, my dear brother, the trailer of beer does not belong to the church. The owner of the trailer of beer should go to court and insist that I have a right to sell beer. If he's not ready to do that, let him count his loss and move his business to Benue State. But is that the nation we are creating? I repeat the position of my brother George, that I don't want to live in a country where that is the situation. Religious leaders must put their own houses in order in this regard, sincerely agree on the principle that there is one God and many faiths. Civil authorities should serve the common good in justice and equity. Then there will be not only religious peace, but religion will be able to play its role of bringing peace to the nation for the good of our people and to the greater glory of God.
Thanks for checking out Symphony on YouTube. Please be sure to subscribe and like our videos for updates.